Hi everybody. Today I'd like to tell you a little bit about what brush lettering is not, and that is it isn't handwriting. So as you watch me write out the word brush, I'd like you to pay attention to the times that I lift up my brush pen. All right, let me zoom in a bit. Okay. So I just did the word brush with brush lettering, obviously. And this is a Tombow dual brush pen, by the way. So there's the brush tip that's flexible, and then there's the other bullet nib that isn't flexible. And so let's now write this word in handwriting. Now this isn't a true cursive handwriting. It's kind of just my own style, but it's kind of like very similar to cursive. So the key difference you should probably notice is I did not lift up my pen really significantly when I was writing. Now in this style, kind of lift up my pen a bit, but technically in cursive, you don't lift up your pen. Now I will write a word with my brush tip that's flexible. And I'm going to write the word right, Okay, so watch to see when I lift up my pen. I pause and I lift it up. There's no rush. I can pause and think about that. My T, where am I going to start my T? So what I see many beginners do is they kind of mistake what I'm doing as brush lettering for writing, and it's totally different. So even if some people say, well, I don't know how to handwrite, so I can't do brush lettering. Well, my point is you don't need to know how to handwrite to do this brush lettering. And like I said, the key is lifting, stopping, pausing. Every stroke is separate. So let's write the word high. There's the beginning of my H. I'm going to stop. There's no rush for me to continue. If you watch my videos on Instagram and some on YouTube, they're misleading because it looks like I don't pick up my pen and stop, but I do. Okay, I like that H. Now where I'm going to put my I for the word high. There, and I dot it. All right, so that is the key difference. And the worksheets, if you don't know, I do have worksheets that help you learn this style of writing. So let's take a look at the worksheets that will help you learn. Here is, okay, let's look at Valentine's Day. It is February if you're watching this. But in the connection set of worksheets that I have on my website, you get the actual breakdown of the letters in these two-tone gray colors that you write or trace on top of, and then you have the actual word, right? So I'll show you how that works. And this S means you start, and the L means you lift. So these worksheets, in essence, the connections worksheets that I have for both large and small brush pens, they will help you figure out where you start, where you lift, and they will remind you that you do lift and stop and pause. There is no there's no rush to get your brush lettering done or your word written, and it's important to remember that. I mean, even when I am writing these words, I'm thinking, okay, slow down, slow down, slow down. I do tend to speed up myself. So it is a natural inclination, especially if you're familiar with handwriting or cursive. Now you can see how slowly I'm going, and some people say, oh, do you always go that slowly? In general, I do. There's the T. One thing I want to mention about crossing the T is I move my hand position. So my hand was like this. You can see where my grip is. It's high up on the pen. And I'm going to stop and go across and cross my T that way. You could go this way, but honestly, when I do that, I find I get a very wiggly line, and maybe it's just me. So this word is broken up into all of these strokes. And some of you might feel impatient, but I think a lot of you will find this pretty relaxing. I messed up that apostrophe. And let's do the capital D. I do have capital letter worksheets. I'm showing you these connection worksheets, but if you are a beginner, I do recommend that you don't start out with words. You start out with the lowercase alphabet and drills. I just want to make the point with this video about learning and writing words and learning to join letters. I'd like you to stop and slow down. And that is basically how I have these worksheets with all of these different greetings and days and everything from hello to Merry Christmas to days of the week. And then the next lines, you can see it's joined together. And so even it's still two-tone. So even when you're working on these joined together words, it's two-tone. And so you can see where you start and lift, and you still won't feel compelled to continue and rush and write, and you can learn to stop and lift and so on. So I don't need to finish that word. Here I have the same thing, except these are my worksheets for small brush pens. You can see the difference in size. So the small brush pens are the same idea, except you have a smaller flexible nib. But you get the breakdown of the word all in the separate strokes, and then you continue with the two-tone of the word to learn. And then at the end of the sheet, then you practice on your own and write it yourself. I have a couple other sheets I've been working on. Here's an example, the word December. And here's another one, the word afternoon. And then there are review sheets like this, where there are no breakdowns. You've already practiced in the other sheets, the days of the week broken down, and then you get to review them in the same set of worksheets, except now they are all joined together and they're all kind of light in color. You can still see the separate strokes in the light gray, but it's not as obvious, and so it really makes you think, how do you connect the strokes? How do you join the letters to create those really nice, beautiful words? So I hope you give my connections worksheets a try. I do have a monthly newsletter, and the monthly newsletter has some free worksheets. In November and December, there were 2 free sheets, one with the word hope and one with the word joy for December. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and enjoy writing your words. Thanks for watching.